Hello everyone, my name is Demismu and this is my assistant the Foot. Today we'll talk about Empedocles. In the previous videos, we saw how the pre-Socratic philosophers taught the principle of all things was some common element around us, such as water, air or fire. Empedocles brings this kind of thinking to its conclusion, because he includes all the previous elements into his theory. So he takes water, air and fire, plus now he also brings in the earth. He calls these four elements the roots of the world, because they make out all existing things. They are present in all things, in the same way that when we look at the world in general, we see that it is divided into the earth, the heavens, the sun and the ocean, which are basically earth, air, fire and water. So the elements are the building blocks of all things. But what makes these elements come together in the first place? According to Empedocles, there are two forces at work, love and strife. Love makes the elements come together, whereas strife divides and pulls them apart. So we have the four elements and two forces that combine and divide them. Now, at the beginning of the cosmic story, there was only love, there was no strife. All the elements were bunched together into a homogeneous sphere, and no distinction could be made between them. Love was that strong. But at a certain point, strife appeared. The sphere broke apart and the elements became released from their unity. However, love was not idle, it resisted, and so we ended up in a state of constant struggle between love and strife. Love constantly brings the elements together, whereas strife pulls them apart, and their interaction results in our world. We are all creations of love, because we are composed of different elements held together. But the union of the elements is not so strong, we do not collapse into the homogeneous sphere. Instead, we and our world permanently undergo change. Things come into being when love brings the elements together, and they decompose when strife becomes stronger. And finally, there comes a time when strife completely wins over love. All things break apart and no unity is possible anymore. There is only a whirl of detached elements, a vortex in which no thing can emerge. So now love has to intervene in order to restore unity, pulling the elements back together into the sphere. The struggle between love and strife is eternal, but we and our world can exist only when neither love nor strife are too strong in relation to each other. When there is only love, we collapse into the sphere, like a black hole that attracts everything into one point. And when there is only strife, we die, because we get ripped apart by the whirlwind in which nothing can emerge. So the only time life can flourish is between the two extremes. This idea of struggle between love and strife also helps Empedocles explain the emergence of life. Life begins with strife, when there are only disconnected limbs floating around. So you have legs, heads, arms just existing on their own. But then love unites these limbs and creates the first organisms. But these first organisms are random unions of different limbs. So we get human bodies with oxen heads or fish bodies with human heads, creatures from Greek mythology, cyclops, sirens and minotaurs. Most of these organisms die because they are put together in a wrong way. Some survive. And this is a primitive survival of the fittest theory, which is why Empedocles has often been compared to Darwin. Eventually, love creates organisms as we know them, proportional and capable of living. But love is now too strong. The organisms are all alike, and more precisely, there is no difference between the sexes. So strife intervenes and divides the organisms into males and females, which then again seek union in love. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time.